It's Wednesday. It's 2 p.m. Do you know where your industry is at, Lisa?
I like that. That's pretty cool, actually.
We're getting it up on the fly. We're firing the hell up here in this building. There's a lot going on already this week. It's Hump Day. Lisa, how are you?
I'm doing great. How are you today, Rich?
Lisa, I'm fired the up. I bleed myself out. Conversations this morning really got me going, and truth be told, we've been anticipating this episode because it's really something that's a big, I think, a big elephant in the room in the industry of how things have kind of brought us to where we are today. OEM parts distribution, where it was, where we are, all the stuff in between. And I think what this is really going to be about is about change. It's about talking about the issues. Again, I'm not looking to roll people under buses. I'm not looking to bash anybody. We're not looking to do any of that. That's not what this is about. No, this is about starting conversations, and important ones that need to be had, and not brushing them under the rug, and not just in those little circles that we have at conferences, right? So that's what Fired Up is for. That's why we're here. We're fired up about tons of industry topics, the good, the bad, the ugly, right? And today we'll probably have a little bit of all of that. So I have two industry leaders with me. I'm going to let them introduce themselves, but Lisa, you can bring them in. We have Josh Zolin from Windy City. We have Nathan Miller from Coastline, and we're all in different markets. So it's really going to be an interesting conversation to see how things kind of are kind of the same in all of our markets in this instance, in this conversation, I think. And we'll see if there's any differences, but I'll let these guys introduce themselves. Nathan, why don't you introduce yourself first?
Nathan Miller. I'm the vice president at Coastline Cooling down in Florida, and I am also one of the Cefesa board of directors.
Yes, sir. Welcome, welcome. And we got another guy here that a few people might know. Who we got here, Josh?
Who? No, I'm just kidding. Who? Hey, guys, I'm Josh. If you don't know me, CEO of Windy City Equipment, author of Blue is the New White, director on Cefesa's board of directors, and probably some other things that I can't remember. Host of a podcast, Blue is the New White. And that's about it. Father of two, incredible husband.
There you go. That's most important.
That's right.
So guys, we're here today. We're talking about OEM parts distribution. Usually we might be lining up some questions and some things of that nature, but I think if we just kind of go back and kind of look at where things were when I started here in the industry. I know back in the late 90s, coming out of high school, early 2000s, there was all kinds of different structures in place. Nathan, how long, give a little background maybe, Nathan, how long have you been in the industry?
Yeah, I was looking at your the label on this conversation, distribution from 1999. I think I was in middle school, man. So I'm not going to be a whole lot of help.
That's okay.
Yes. I've been in the industry nearly 15 years now. Kind of started, my father has been in it since, high school, and I started helping out, off and on. Elementary school, I was take your kid to work day would be, I remember Scotsman training classes, going to that. And a lot of the same folks in the same industry for 20 something years. It was really cool to see. Been down here at Coastline about 15 years now, and I'll stop there.
Nice. Josh, what about you, Josh? I know you've been around a little bit.
Yeah, well, actually kind of the same as Nathan, really started in the industry about 15 years ago. My dad's only been in this particular industry for 20 years. He started the business about 20 years ago. I do remember, though, for a long time, he was a foreman at a bakery in Chicago. So I got my first introduction, kind of like in high school. I'd go work for him at the bakery, with manual labor and stuff like that. But he used to do a lot of these maintenance on the big bakery ovens and stuff like that. So I was introduced to some of the parts aspect of things early on, with showing me how, what gas valves were, what solenoid valves were, and, how an actual ignition system works. And so, the first ones I ever saw were the ovens the size of this room. And that's kind of the extent of what I remember there. But so very similar to Nathan.
Okay, so I mean, listen, I guess I'm the old guy in the room here. So I'll just kind of preface and get some context going for the longer conversation or the bigger conversation. If I remember sitting here, and my father's first contract was Trimester, and there was a guy named Jim Fred who I guess was making those decisions back then, and he actually had my father had him come and stay at our house, and I got kicked out of my room, and he put him in my room to sleep for the night in a twin size bed, which I this was a big guy. I don't know how that happened, but uh, this was his first contract, and it was one of those things where there was territories and things were protected, and service was top level. We have to make sure that our service companies have the parts on the shelf so they can talk about those first time people, and make sure they want to stock those parts because if there's no protection and it's a free for all, you see what could happen when you fast forward 20 years or so. And I think that we'll get to that, but when you call down and someone will call a Prime Minister, our parts business, we were doing, for a small business, we were doing a lot of revenue out of the back door. We were sending out 25, 30, 35 boxes a day um, at one point, even more than that. And, you know, when you call Prime Minister, he said, where are you? I'm in New Jersey. Call him out. Oh, I'm in Arizona. Okay, call Josh because he's the ASA. And we had those things going on back in the day. And I think there was something. There was a great camaraderie and a great understanding that we are going to stock these parts. We're going to give you the level of service you need. We're getting paid proper. We're doing all these different things. And when you kind of fast forward, and I'll say this before we go into the next station part here. Last week we talked about technicians and how their jobs are just they're so critical, they're so important, and just giving them little shout outs and stuff of that nature. Then you look at this form right here of us. We are the protectors of the technicians. We are the ones to make sure our margins are right, that our businesses are healthy. But we are not going out of business. And then there's no Mount here, there's no Windy City here, there's no coastline if we don't do what we're supposed to do to ensure these things. So the next step, you fast forward, here we are, 2023. The parts distribution game has changed. We know we're not again not naming names. We all know where we go, what we do, and how we do what we do. But no, I'll say this to Josh. Maybe you want to take the first step in the conversation here. Um, let's just talk about the importance of what parts revenue means to our business.
Yeah, no, that's a great topic. And to respond to what you first said too, just to give a little context, I do remember those days when I was a technician in the field, being able to pick up the phone and call Bob at Middleby, right? No, we're not supposed to name names, but that was a great relationship. Yeah, it was fantastic. I mean, but to your point, right? I could pick up the phone and there was Corey at Imperial, and these guys, they really cared about what the service company was doing, what parts they had, what parts they needed to get the jobs done. And it felt like at least among several of the manufacturers I dealt with, a real camaraderie that was there. So I just want to put that out to respond to what you just said, but moving forward to focus on that question, how important are parts in our business? They're incredibly important. I mean, the bulk of our margin is made on parts, not on labor. And I think that there's a lot of misconception around that because people don't understand. And when I say people, I mean people outside the industry, right? Mm-hmm. Or maybe people that aren't in the service seat, right? You understand, Nathan understands, the overhead involved in rolling a technician. What the truck costs, what their phones cost, what the computers cost. I mean, listen, the office staff is overhead at that point. So by the time you just charge for labor, your margins are razor thin. So we use these part sales to help with that. And from a business standpoint, that we get more margin off the parts most of the time, at least for me, at least for my business, than we do off the labor. And I think that there's just a big misconception surrounding that, that specific topic.
Yeah. Nathan, how important would you say are parts and their margins to your business?
Yeah, I think Josh nailed it. Not a whole lot to add there, but especially when you do, depending on who you're working for, whether that's when you're working for a manufacturer, you're not billing them for the most part for your parts. That labor rate needs to be higher That's kind of what has been talked about forever, right?
Yeah.
And then you have the other common train of thought that maybe those work orders are leads for the business, for those techs to go gather a couple new clients that maybe you didn't have access to before that manufacturer sent the dispatches in. But no, just in general, I would say they could be as much as 50% of a total margin on a bill, all the way up to 80% of a
Sure.
total bill. How about, do you see the same thing that we see, Josh?
Yeah, that's about right, and it depends on a lot of different factors, like you said.
Yeah.
Who the customer is, whether they're a manufacturer, a third party provider, or an end user. I mean, all of that comes into play. But at the end of the day, the point here I think that we're trying to drive home is that parts as an offering from a service company are incredibly important, to our bottom line.
Correct.
Yeah.
And we sell two things. We sell time and we sell parts. And like you said, I think there's such a misunderstanding or realization. I don't know. I don't know if it's just for lack of the knowledge or understanding of what goes into these labor costs. But like you said, you're putting in all the technologies, all the insurances, the inventory, the overhead of the office, the actual technicians' pay rates, the 401ks, the paid time off, the vacation. This is all stuff that labor affects. So yeah, I mean, that's great. We have to have our labor rates, but the part sale, and I'm not talking about we need to go in there and start selling parts. We want to be the ones to sell the part when it's time. That's the point. So I'll ask you this, guys. This is a big question. How many customers are calling you today saying, I have the part, can you come install it? And what are you doing? Nathan?
Yeah, I honestly, we're not installing it. We're not really getting those calls either. I think we've trained our customers pretty well. We have a form that goes out, especially for new accounts, that kind of give them a playbook on how we operate. If they want to partner with us, these are the things that you need to know about how we operate, and that's not one of them. I know some people will install it, but they'll waive their warranty. We just won't install it.
No.
How about you, Josh?
Yeah, pretty much the same. I mean, listen, we don't create policy around exception either. And there are some circumstances in which I will waive that just out of respect for the relationship. But it all depends. It's all contingent on that. Who's the customer,
Yeah.
But as a rule of thumb, no, we do not install parts that we don't provide. There's just too much risk in it, to your point, Nathan. And we can, and we have waived warranty on parts. Anytime we do make that exception, it comes with a waiver of warranty, obviously, on that. But we don't like to do that, and we don't get the request often because every time we do, we have the conversation. And I think it's fair to note too that our best customers aren't asking.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. And for us, it's the same thing. We let them know this is a liability. And I wouldn't say it's not that it's happening at an alarming rate, but it does happen. And there is one of those things where, okay, let's look at the customer. Let's look at the relationship. Let's see, okay, they do X amount of dollars a year. Every once in a while, they're going to say, hey, I'm going to supply just this. Was that, and they'll even say, is this okay if we supply just this? Okay, you know what? In that instance, I'll let that slide. But it's I would say 98 to 99% of the time we're not doing that. And I think if I put a PSA out to the service industry, I would say everybody should stick together in that. Don't install customer supply parts. There's too much risk. There's too much liability, and we all need to kind of stick together in that because the death of the part sale could be the death of the service company. It's that important. And I even have a quick story of a chain account that we had here for many years that decided to call up and they said, listen, we're going to start supplying these, and these because we're going to be getting a better discount from so-and-so. And I said, well, I'm sorry. That's just not going to be, long-term for us. It's just not going to be okay. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to propose that our labor rate goes from here to here. And also I can't guarantee the work that we do for that stuff. And this person began laughing at me on the phone. And that was pretty much the beginning of the end of that relationship. And there was 20 locations gone because there's discounts that are very close going to an end user that just shouldn't be. So I ask you, anything going on that you're seeing in your markets where you're finding your customers are getting the same or better discounts than you? Anyone want to take that?
Yeah, we've caught that on a couple occasions, but we normally resolve that with one phone call. But even so, it doesn't really matter for us. The customer, look, I don't know about you guys, but I'm sure you can't take every customer's call that calls you. I'm sure everyone across the country is turning away business. So
Yeah.
go ahead and turn those down and just take on the folks that allow you to supply your own parts. That's the way we're proceeding. And then we are bringing that to the manufacturer's attention if we do come across that. And I'm talking a gross difference in discount, us versus that customer. We had one a couple of weeks ago. I think it was a franchise. They had 2 locations, and they had a 50% discount off list, and I think we were getting 15. So one phone call fixed. It was a gross error on someone's mistake.
Yeah. No, and we're seeing the same here. I haven't heard the error thing. I might have to pick your brain about that. We have had those conversations though. And it makes things difficult. But to your point, we just, I mean, with our main customers, we don't really do it. Where we see it, we have an over-the-counter parts department, in our local region here in Phoenix. And so a lot of the customers that come in and buy parts from us over the counter, we're finding a lot of them, are starting to see this other discount from this other place that exceeds our own discount. And so, yeah, we do. We pick up the phone. We say, hey, this can't happen, and usually it gets resolved, But I will say it is a little frustrating to get to that point because perception is reality, right? So as soon as the customer thinks they know what that discount is for us, because they just assume, right? They assume that we're charging too much, when that may very well not be the case. So it does paint us in a bit of a corner.
Yeah, you nailed it. Trust is paramount, right? And just the perception of that can erode that trust factor from that customer. Absolutely.
Yeah. Lisa, before we continue, do we have any questions or comments?
Oh man, we got plenty. And I was trying to find a good time to bring any of these in. So before I go through comments, so Vinny would love to jump in on this. And I don't know if we do have a chance to allow another guest on.
You tell me, can we?
I'm cool with it.
So for everyone, Vinny is the founder of Service Masters in New York City. The company we acquired back in September 2021. I'm happy to bring Vinny on. You guys okay with Vinny coming on?
So Vinny, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just post a comment with the invite link. So if you do want to jump in, use that link, and I will see you in terms of like the green room. You'll be in the back, and I'll be able to let you in on this live. So there you go, Vinny. Let me go through these comments now. So we've got, let's go. If you're not an ASA for every manufacturer, then you're between a rock and a hard place where you buy parts at a very short discount and look like the bad guy selling it 25 to 50% over list. Perspective is important when it comes to parts margins.
That's from a Facebook user, so we should let us know. Any thoughts on that, guys?
It's very true.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's
we have those. We have hard conversations with those customers. Yeah, it's not fun because they expect you to get the deepest discount. You're the area pro.
Right.
You should be getting that contractor deep discount, right? No one should be able to have a better discount than you in their eyes. But there are instances where it is flip-flopped, and we're having those hard conversations as well.
Yeah. What else we got, Lisa?
So we've got, who do we have to thank for customers having the part? Not naming names, but we all know who.
So, yeah, I mean, listen, this is the conversation because from my perspective, and I get a lot of phone calls and emails. Obviously I'm very active in the industry, so people do reach out to me and they say, "What are you doing here?" And they send me this, and I look at this, and I'm like, "Well, I'm kind of in the same boat." I for one think that there should be regulations in place. I'm sorry, I know we can't shut the internet down. There's whatever, but for the main distribution channels in our industry, and I put that on you guys. What do you think? I mean, am I crazy? Should there be regulations, and should ASAs and service companies be the ones that are locked in to get the discounts, and nobody else should? I mean, is that fair?
Is it regulation or is it respect, or is that a different conversation?
I mean, no. I mean, and that's a great question too.
I don't know. Nathan, why don't I pitch this to you before I say something I regret?
I come from the approach of not feeling entitled. That could just be me, but I'm not gonna just assume they're gonna give us the deepest discount. When we're negotiating those ASA contracts, that's where we're gonna make sure we're winning. And just about everyone we gets redlined. I don't know about you guys, but it's a negotiation. From their standpoint, what's in it for them? And that's kind of how we approach every conversation with them. Obviously, we're going to negotiate parts discount. We're going to make sure that's, if not at the high, we're always going to make sure that's at the top tier, in the at least 50% range if we can. And then from that, there's other ideas we can kind of throw in. What's in it for the manufacturer? We'll respond faster. We can resolve that repair faster. I don't know about you guys. We're on a 2 to 3 day lead time for random service calls. If we don't have the parts, then it's going to be another 2 to 3 days. So if they want to stock those parts in our warehouse, we'll have it fixed within 2 days versus going into next week getting it repaired.
So let me put it to you this way, Nathan, because I've had these conversations with someone, with a couple of different people recently, and I understand the negotiations with the manufacturer and all that, and to get the 50. That's all well and good. So you got the 50, but now one of your good customers, one of your mid customers, whatever, calls you and says, "Well, you're charging me $100 for a part that you get now." Let's say that realistically, that $100 part you get it for 50, right? You got 50 off, but that customer went and made a phone call and did what they did, and they get 35. Are you gonna say, "Okay, I'll max that and work on a 15% part margin"?
Nah, again, like, to do business with us, you're agreeing to our terms. We're billing everyone list price, and if we're not getting a good enough discount, we're charging over list price. So we got to hit the expected parts margin to make our labor rate make sense.
Yeah.
Sure.
The second we start to work around and accommodate, these exactly what we're talking about now, is it's a very slippery slope, right? And I think that's not good for our businesses, and I don't think that's good for the landscape of the service industry as a whole, right? Is the more companies that start doing this, the more the pendulum swings, and it can be detrimental to margins across the board. To your original point, Rich.
I mean, that's it. Not that I want people to get angry. I mean, I'm from Jersey, so everything makes me angry, I guess. But I get pissed off at certain things when I see it. It's not about entitled. I don't feel entitled. I want to work for everything. I don't want anything handed to me. But I think what's right is right. I mean, if I've given this scenario to, I'm sure you guys have too. I had to talk to a chain account because they were going to supply their part that they get for 35% off, and I said, well, are they going to come and put it in for you? Are they going to be there on Friday if something happens again? What are they doing versus what we're doing? We're going to come in. We're going to give you a certified tech. We're going to be there for you 24/7. We're going to install it. We're going to warranty it for an industry-leading 180 days that we do here in our market. We're going to stand behind everything. I can't give you that price. And what if I walked into your location with everything? I walked in with the meat. I walked in with the bread. I said, I love the way you guys assemble sandwiches. Instead of charging me $10.50, I'm going to pay $2.50 because you guys are going to pay your guy to put it together. That place is not going to be in business. and neither will we. So I think the conversation is we have to fight and talk about these things that are happening before it's too late. So we have Vinny.
Yeah, I got Vinny in here. Let me bring him in.
So we got an old school perspective here. Vinny.
Good
down in
afternoon,
Pompano
everybody.
Beach.
Hey, Vinny.
Hey, Josh, Nathan, how are you, Lisa?
Hello.
How you guys doing? All right.
Doing good.
Doing good.
Doing good.
All righty.
Welcome to the party.
Yeah, I just wanted to join this. Rich, you guys are bringing up a lot of good points about a lot of this, and after 30-something years doing this, it's this has been a problem for a long time. The manufacturers' contracts that they issued, and Rich, you could probably attest to this, that when you first signed on as an ASA for these companies, there were territories, there were parts restrictions, like being in New York, and I had the Long Island market locked up. Like I couldn't sell a fryer computer in Queens to one of my own customers if I wanted to. It was very strict back then. But through the years, one of the big coffee places, national chains, started buying parts directly from a fryer manufacturer, which I was unaware of. And you need to change a computer or a gas valve or something. And the customer starts saying, well, we're going to buy our own parts because they're getting a better discount themselves other than yourself as an ASA. And I was like blown away by that. So they want us to warranty the part. They want us to go through the return process and keep track of it and everything else. And you don't even make your percentage, which was cut down over the years. You went from making 50% profit to 40% profit. Then they started changing all the lines where you get, 48 here and 52 there and 60 here and this and that. It just became ridiculous to keep up with everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%. Then you get these multi-chain locations that would call and say, well, they have 15 locations, and the parts houses would automatically just give them a discount.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, it is something that's been going on for some time. Do we have any more questions or comments? We'll jump in and get some.
You go back to the beginning of time when the company up in northern New York.
So
you go back to the
Facebook
beginning of New York. The people up in Plattsburgh there, when they started selling parts to the end.
Northern. I remember them.
He dropped. So a regulation would be fine, but you know who owns ASAs, so that their end run around, and that's their end run around a regulation. So essentially,
yeah. It might not listen. I'm just talking. Thinking out loud, and I'm not saying it's realistic, but anyway, for conversation's sake. Okay, what else you got?
The distribution model through wholesale suppliers to contractors is how every trade currently does business today. It allows the contractor to have access to parts in a timely manner without holding inventory, square foot, and cash flow hostage. Strategic partnerships are key to success.
Can I respond to that?
Please. That's our boy Jeff.
Yeah. Thanks, Jeff. That's and I see it's hard for me here because all the things that we're talking about, respect came into the conversation, regulation came into the conversation, procedure. And I think it's important to note that personally, I'm a capitalist. I'm a supporter of the free market, and I fully and utterly understand the concept actually behind, this topic at hand. From a business standpoint, I get it, but I think there's something in Jeff's point there to where, there's a best of both worlds situation. It's not about swinging the pendulum one way or another. It's about finding the balance. Right. And I try to apply that to several areas of my life, not just in work, but it applies just as much here as it does anywhere else. And I think, again, my humble opinion, the solution lies in conversation, right? It lies in having the discussion. It lies in getting back to what it means to have a relationship with your vendors and your customers, right? We're a customer to our vendors, right? And so, that relationship piece over the years, to Vinny's point, seems to have the pendulum seems to have swung into a very transactional spot. And, I think our goal here, and with what our conversations are, should be getting back to center, not necessarily all the way over here. It doesn't have to be that way, right? Free market, capitalism, all that. Right here is where everybody wins, but we need everybody working toward everybody else winning, right? And keeping that value, that philosophy, and those morals front and center.
Yeah, I think that's well said. And I'm with you on that. It is. Listen, I'm all for capitalism. I mean, again, this is not about crying about it. Listen, we all got to put our big boy or big girl pants on every day, and figure out ways to adapt around it all, which we're doing here, and I'm sure you guys are doing too. You do everything you have to do. It's just, I think this is a big conversation that's been ongoing, and I think there's a lot of stuff going on here in 2023, as we know. So I think it's a good conversation. But yeah, I agree with you on that. What else you got, Lisa?
Another good comment here. What is the root problem? There aren't enough OEM parts distributors. There needs to be more OEM parts distributors to ignite competition, drive down costs, and eliminate consolidation. Consolidation creates control without repercussions. The question becomes, how do service companies diversify to support an up-and-coming OEM distributors? Private equity has been prevalent in the space and focuses on margin and continued growth. The odds of private equity groups having sympathy for service companies is unlikely if there is no competition to give them a run for their money.
Wow.
Yes.
Do we know who said that?
That was Ray Bartolomucci.
That was Ray Bartolomucci. There you go.
Nice work, Ray. Yeah, I think there's a lot of truth in that. I mean, to your point, that's self-regulation. That's what that is competition creates that.
Yes, it does. And I think that's where we definitely are going to see some changes and some different things happening for sure.
I'll just bring in a couple more here. Too many upstart manufacturers that use free or cheap parts to sway clients to their brands. The market is broken.
The market is broken. That was Mike. What's going on, Mike? Anything else we got going on?
Nathan, I keep seeing your mouth open like you're about to say something. I'm like waiting with bated breath over here. Like, what kind of bomb?
Nathan, please jump in anytime.
I'm taking it all in. I'll jump in when I'm ready.
All right, you got it.
A lot of the comments are about the same, around the same subject, so we're good to keep rolling.
Good to keep rolling. So, Josh, what's going on at Windy City Equipment? Let's, I know we've had different conversations and things that are going on. What's going on at Windy City Equipment? Do you have any, because I know you guys are very in tune with your teams. You're having meetings, and is there anything going on in the parts discussions in the parts rooms? Is there anything going on that you maybe want to bring to light or talk about?
This one, I mean, honestly, we're having this conversation internally, and so it definitely comes up a lot with my parts team, and stuff like that. Nice, Jeff. So that, that aspect of it is always topic of conversation, right? And then there's always the conversation from the technicians between, generic parts and OEM parts. And it's kind of its own separate topic, and how that, how that affects business and, repairs and all of that. So I'm not really going to go down that road. That could take us another hour, but those conversations with regard to parts are really where we live. Yeah.
Nathan, anything going on internally? And I'll even go as far as, talking about the inventory that we hold. There's a, whether it's within the contract or not in the contract, whatever it is, there's an expectation for a service company to hold a lot of parts. And, you go back in the day, it was a little different. I was moving these parts. I was selling these parts. Baker's Pride, we used to sell the M1000 5Xs, the S1002, the thermostats, the handles. Back before Mercury was banned, we used to sell the M1004 safety valve. I mean, we couldn't keep these parts on the shelf. Now you fast forward and you look at it from the inventory perspective as well. for me, I'd like to, if I'm going with if there's a new manufacturer and I just became an ASA, I want to have that opportunity to get a 365-day snapshot on what we're going to actually use before I say, okay, I'm going to put $20,000 on my shelf. So I think there's that standpoint too. I mean, what are you seeing internally? What do you got going on with parts discussions, Nathan, maybe, and inventory as well?
Here's the 1 hour conversation. Where to begin? So you're saying there's an expectation to carry a certain amount of parts. We don't accept it. We don't accept that. Okay. And granted, just with a asterisk, we came from the cold side. Lot of your big time refrigeration equipment you buy at local supply houses, condensing units, compressors. It's no one's going to stock that in their warehouse. You can go to any local supply house, pick that up.
Right.
So where we came from is going to be a little different where mostly everyone else came from, coming from commercial cooking equipment versus fixing ice machines, coolers, freezers, etc. Now, when you're talking about manufacturer agreements, I get it. I see it in the agreement. I want you to stock these 2 pages worth of parts. I get it. That's just not something we're accepting. So, again, kind of similar to our customer base. Here's the 2-page document. This is what it's going to take for you to be a customer of ours. We're also giving that to manufacturers. And we're probably going to go back and forth a few times, and that's okay. We're going to talk a couple times, and then we're going to mutually agree to move forward on a reduced level. And honestly, they're probably putting parts in our warehouse for no cost. And that's kind of how we're proceeding. We're typically not paying a penny for their line items, at least for the first stock, and then we're going to replenish them. But that's how we're acting right now.
I'd love to know who's doing that. We could talk about that off air because I've never gotten one thing for free, or consignment or anything.
Yep. That's one tactic we're taking. The other one, a lot of manufacturers are getting better at having that data, the failure rates. Here's one case study for you. We partnered with one manufacturer. They gave us a 2-page list of things to stock. We did so. They gave it to us. They collected dust for about a year. I think we maybe burned through 10% of that. Then they gave us, a new person came into that manufacturer, came up with a failure rate, redeveloped that stock kit on the money. So we exchanged those parts. We got the new ones, and that kit's on point. So I think a lot of the manufacturers are getting better. I don't know if they're implementing any new processes on their end to have that data more readily available, or maybe they're just sharing it more. But I bet you if you just have that conversation with the manufacturer, they've got all the failure rates of all the parts. And at least from my conversations, they're more than happy to share it with me.
Okay.
That's where we start.
Gotcha.
It's good.
Josh, anything on inventory and what your thoughts are on that?
Oh no, Nathan's way better at that than me. So no, honestly, we haven't had the opportunity. Now, granted, we do. We need to get better at the negotiation aspect of things. I'll say that. And it's not that we cave; it's that we go the other direction. No thanks. And that's kind of that's kind of where it ends. So a little bit of what Nathan had said. We push back on what we need to push back on. Now, if they're offering parts, that's one thing that doesn't cost us anything, and that actually helps our inventory from like a consignment perspective. But if we're required to purchase parts, then we're pushing back pretty hard. And some manufacturers, as do. Make that requirement. But no, we're actually going the opposite direction, and we've got a cut list on deck. So,
okay, what do we got, Lisa?
We've got Jay Maiden asked, what do you expect that you are not currently getting from manufacturers?
Am I allowed to name names? Hey, I see Jay's face.
You're your own man. Go for it.
No, he picks up his phone anytime you call him. What I love about him, he will give you like a list of like 5 little things. Like, these are the 5 freaking things that fail the most on our equipment.
Yeah.
I recommend you keep these around. Don't need to, recommend you do, but these are the 5 most commonly failed items. He's not going to tell you to stock compressors, evaporators, any of that. So I could be off base, Jay, with the number 5, but I'm darn close. It's not 20, it's not 50, it's not 100. Him and his team have a very tiny list of things that they recommend, and it's data driven, right?
Yes, they do. Now, Jay's awesome. This is like one of those wire conversations. It's not all manufacturing. It's not all everything. This is just for conversation's sake, obviously. I mean, I was in a negotiation this morning with a very big manufacturer partner of ours. You know, as far as what do we expect from manufacturers? I think we expect, going back to Josh, the respect. I think of what the service industry is and what the market looks like, and how important technicians are, and how scarce they are as they're going out into retirement, and the newer ones not coming in as fast, right? So that's why you keep seeing me say service is king. So what I would expect from a manufacturer is you want to grade me, you want to do all this stuff, but take all that stuff out. Okay, you need a solid service technician to get from A to B, get things done. That's what we are really good at. That's what you guys are really good at. That comes at a price. I see parts prices going up. I see equipment prices going up. But the minute I say I need a 20% raise on my labor rate, I'm made to feel like I don't know, like I'm crazy or something. Oh, we can't do that. That's insane. Well, we've been at 85 for 8 years. Can I get over $100 an hour at some point? So I think respect and understanding what we're all doing here. These men and these women in the trenches are working hard. I mean, look at the friggin' temperatures you had out there, Josh, that you were saying 150 degrees on the roof. Who wants that? But they do it because they love what they do and they like finding solutions, and that's what I think when you look at it from Jay's question. For me, what do you guys think?
Rich is fired up. That's what I think.
Oh, I'm getting there.
You know what? To that point, I just, I won't take a ton of time, reiterating that, but I think you hit the nail on the head. It's, we expect respect, and what if we get that mutually? Of course, it goes both ways. Correct. And I can respect that somebody's job is to spend as little as possible. I get it. I understand that. But there can also be a respect factor in those conversations. Like, I'll give you a quick example. Again, I won't name names, but a rather large manufacturer came in probably about 6 months ago for a meeting with us to see if, it would be a good fit. They came in, they walked into the conference room, they sat down, they didn't say hello to anyone. Listen, I pick up on the little things, and I'm sorry. But, when you have 3 representatives from, a large corporation like this, and you walk in, they didn't even say hello to the people sitting at the table. They went right into the conversation. And, this may seem petty to some people, right? But to me, right then and there, I was like, all right, well, I don't know how much is left to talk about. It just because and the way that they approach it, again, transactionally, right, as opposed to relationally, if that's a word. Is that a word? I don't know.
Yeah, and maybe there's a sense of arrogance there, like you need us when it should be we need each other.
Yeah, and then I think maybe that could be, again, finding that balance, right? How can we help each other? Needless to say, we sent that manufacturer on their way, and even though they wanted us to be in ASA, we said no.
Yeah, sometimes it's not a right fit. Sure.
In my 15 years of doing this, I'm trying to get better at watching those red flags.
You can only accept so much work.
That's it too.
You might as well accept those that meet your core values as well as your expected rates and discounts.
Yeah, and I always hear Dan Deibler in the back of my head. Dan, I don't know where you are or if you're watching, but I always hear Dan Deibler in the back of my head. He's like, "What are you accepting $80 an hour for?" He's like, "Let the schmuck down the road take that. You go where they pay you right." I could hear him. Dan Deibler is super honest, super intelligent, never afraid to tell you how it is, and I always love that about him. And I can always hear him saying that. So, thanks, Dan.
I think he said that to me a time or two, also. By the way.
Yeah.
I'm just going to bring in Taz's comment before I bring Vinny back. He's been waiting to make a comment again, too. So Taz says the customers are feeding the OEM's data on what they see fail the most.
True.
Okay, and that's probably from a very big perspective at Walmart, right? I mean,
Yep.
they're massive, so yeah.
Yep. Yep. Good point.
Okay.
No,
Okay.
now we got Vinny back.
All right, Vinny, you got something to say, Vinny?
Sorry about that, guys. I had the improper with the internet connection.
You on dial-up? AOL?
No, I'm good now. I'm good. Yeah. I'm on the Pony Express internet connection here in Florida. Yeah, somebody brought up a good comment before about the parts house only being one main player in the industry, and that takes the competition away, which they have to say, and nobody else can challenge them. And when you do challenge them, they make your life miserable. And I saw that for a few years in the latter parts of my career. And I wasn't happy when the manufacturers decided to do this. I understand everybody had to cut costs and they were looking for the best way to do so. But it took that intricate relationship that you had with the manufacturer where you were speaking to them every day. You were talking to the parts people and the manufacturer every day. They knew if there was an abundance of gas valves being sold. I mean, we had a situation one year where we installed 110 gas valves in fryers. And I remember talking to the people at this manufacturer and saying, listen, is there something going on here you want to tell me about? Something's not right here. And, finally pushing and shoving, I finally got to the bottom of what the issue was. And we helped them get resolution to the problem. But when you go to these big parts houses, that these people, I mean, not everybody has to have a job, but they're data entry people. They don't know the difference between a high limit and the thermostat and the gas valve. They're pushing part numbers into a computer. Right. They don't know if they sell 150 thermostats in 1 month, that there might be something going on with the product. They just think it's a popular item being sold.
Sure. No, I mean, I think that's something that's important to note, the relationship part of it, right?
Yes.
It's
the relationship with the manufacturer was always most important, and I always kept that dialogue open. But I understand Rich's pain because, you have the cost of operating a business. The insurance is getting ridiculous in the United States to operate. I was talking to my brother last week, Rich, who you know well, who's in the North Carolina market, and he says one of his pains is trying to get service vehicles.
Yep.
He can't get trucks, and the trucks went from an average of $25,000 to $28,000 a vehicle. Now you got to spend $35,000-$40,000 for a truck if you're lucky to get one.
Yep. Oh yeah. Oh, it's that's listen. There's so many factors that go into running a service business, and that's an entire fired up episode on operations of the business. We have any other comments or questions, Lisa? Oh, I know I want to pay attention to the time too.
No, you're good to keep rolling.
Good to keep rolling?
Yeah. You're good. All
right. So guys, listen, we're coming to, I want to respect everybody's time. It's already 10 to 3. So listen, if there's something about this topic, guys, that's been burning in your soul right now, I don't know who wants to start. Nathan, Josh, either one of you guys pick.
Well,
what's burning in your soul? Vinny's burning. Go ahead,
I could probably burn a couple hours of your guys' time, but I'm the retired guy here. You guys are working, so
you got 60 seconds.
Okay, I remember many years ago I was approached by a manufacturer to be their exclusive parts distributor for a certain manufacturer, and I took on extra space. I incurred expense in putting up shelving and all these things to be ready to have area to be ready to accommodate this. That they sent me all the parts, and a few months later I find out the sole parts distributor in the United States is a partner of mine selling those same parts. So if I wanted to play hardball with somebody and sell for list price, which that's what my contract said, I'm entitled to sell for list price because of my expenses and the market and everything else. that other people were going to this parts distributor and they were getting 25%, 40% discounts, which knocked me right out of the market. Like, why would somebody buy from me when they can get a 40% discount and they got to pay like $25 in shipping and they have it, a few days later.
Right.
So what am I stocking the shelves with all these products if it's just going to sit there?
I'm with it.
I was very upset about that. And that's one of many manufacturers I could sit here and tell you stories about.
Yeah, I listen. Me and you will set that up. We'll do a live, and I want you to air it all the dirty laundry. But guys, what's burning? What's burning in your soul while we end this one? Josh, what's burning in your soul, man?
I guess just opportunity, right? I mean, it's we've got an opportunity here, I think, to push this industry forward. I look at it this way. I've used this analogy a lot, right? In our position as service providers, sometimes it can feel like we're pushing a boulder up a hill, and I think we've all felt that pain. And I think that those who we expect to be pushing alongside us sometimes feels like they're pushing back. Sometimes it feels like they're just standing on the sideline watching us push the boulder, and I think that if we could all just work together, that we'd be able to actually see some serious progress, and that's with regard to manufacturers. That's with regard to parts distribution companies. That's with regard to, everybody, reps, dealer reps, and other service companies as well, and listen, I'm a big proponent of this in the spirit of competition. I love competition. Competition makes all of us better. Right. But introducing respect into that conversation, there can be respectful competition. And, Rich, if you were in my market, respectfully, we'd be going toe to toe and we'd be breaking bread afterwards, celebrating 100%. My victory. So,
damn right.
And I think that there just needs to be a little bit more of that, like a unified mission, and I think that it could bode well. It seems like that used to be more prevalent than it is today. It feels like we're kind of separating or swinging that pendulum the opposite direction, if you will. So I don't know if any of that made sense. I just was speaking from the heart. So
yeah, no, Josh, I agree with you. And there are different markets, and your market is probably a little bit easier to live by those rules. New York was always a treacherous area to work in, and Rich can affirm that. It's not like it was 30 years ago, where the other service companies, they were considered enemies. Over the years, myself and Rich's dad always got along, even though we were not competitors. We were in different markets. We always had a good thing to say about each other, even if I didn't like him, which I always did. But if I didn't, I was always the bigger person to say, I'm not going to talk bad about somebody. And his dad was the same way. But there's a lot of service companies in New York where they look at you and they'll shake your hand at a show and they'll smile and they'll put your arm around you. And the next day, they'll be banging on the door of one of your biggest customers, dropping their pants, running in on you. So it's a rough market for sure.
I don't doubt that.
Yeah, no, this is no doubt a tough market to be in. But I think, not getting too far away off topic, I would say that I definitely tried to open my doors and my arms and my heart and everything to everybody. Gary Vee said, you could build the biggest building in town without tearing down everybody else's, and I do believe that. You can work together. But Nathan, with everything going on here on this topic, any last closing things, just things that are burning inside you, maybe that you want to get out, you want to say to the people?
Yeah, I might have the contrary view here, but I'm hopeful. I'm excited. I can tell you, I know at least a couple manufacturers, maybe some are listening to it right now, that are actively working on this at their office. It's on their quarterly action plan. Like they've been made aware of the problem. They don't want it, and they're fixing it. So they're consulting with me. They're calling our office, seeing what can they do to help fix this problem for service companies. So I think as service companies, pick up the phone, just answer their call. Have their back. Give them your opinion. What would help you? What can they do to help you? What can we do to help them? Continue these conversations, and I think you're going to see a big change within the next 18 months to 2 years.
Listen, I love it. I love that. And I want to say that I'm not looking to be a Debbie Downer or negative or come across angry or entitled or any of those things. I have a lot of old school blood in me, and there's grit. There's a lot of hunger. There's the fire in the belly. And I just, when I see things happening in the industry, I know the best way to tackle things and create change is to talk about it. So we're doing that. I think everybody has great points of view. And Nathan, I love the positivity, and I
love it.
I'm going to be watching that. I think there's truth to that. What do we got, Lisa?
So actually, on that note of positivity, Jason Hartman says, so has anything good happened in the past 20 years with the OEM parts industry in relation to service companies? We seem to have talked a lot about the bad things. Has there been any advancement, or has it just gotten more difficult? Just wondering.
We can talk about that real quick. If I want to respect everybody's time, I know everyone's running businesses and doing their thing. I think there has been some good things. I think parts availability, has been much better.
360 view.
Oh yeah.
Listen, the 360. That was definitely a game changer. Being able to let us in the parts departments, the technicians seeing exactly what we do, so we can try to stop those wrong. I hate when they order the wrong part. I'm like, So there's definitely been some goods and positives. Anything else, guys, on that, on positives?
Well, the introduction of the e-commerce side of things, I think, goes to the parts availability, but also ease of use. I remember the old days where I would have to call CCC and place an order over the phone, right? And it's not like you get to review that except for verbally, and then you realize when you get the parts that maybe you made a mistake. Now being able to hit add to cart really does improve operational efficiency, in my opinion.
Oh, absolutely. So I think Jason, that was true. Jason Hartman, love you and appreciate you. There's a lot. There's definitely positives on that side. So I guess we're coming to an end of this fired up. Vinny, I don't know. You got anything else from down in Pompano Beach, or are we done?
Yeah, no. Listen, thanks for bringing me here. Happy to see you guys. Hopefully, Rick, you're doing a great job of keeping everybody together and everybody informed. I wish you were around 30 years ago, and you did this. The industry would be in a different place today.
Not me. Then I'd be older. Then I'd be even older. All right. So listen, guys, I appreciate everybody. If you want to stick around after, we could chat some more. But that's a fired up episode, Lisa. Thank you, guys.
Have a.
Oh, sorry, Vinny.
So in closing, you guys can find Nathan over at Coastline Cooling. I believe it's coastlinecooling.com. You can find Josh at Windy City Equipment. Is it windycityequipment.com, Josh? We'll check. We'll put some things in the links. These guys are not hard to find. They are very active in the industry. They're leaders in their market. And I just appreciate Josh, Nathan, Vinny, appreciate all your time greatly. I know everybody's busy and running around, and I think this is an important topic to talk about. And again, I just want to close this episode with there being a real understanding that we as service companies, like Josh was saying too, sometimes you feel like you're pushing a boulder up a mountain here, trying to get stuff done. And there's a lot of hardworking men and women in the trenches here, these technicians, and our jobs. My job is to make sure that these people have a place to come every day with plenty of work, and that's no problem, right? Because there's plenty of work. A healthy business, a business that offers things to them for growth. we're looking to pay 100% of medical benefits here in the next 12 to 24 months. That's a goal of mine. Back years ago, it was always like a 50-50 split or whatever. I want to pay 100%. I want these people to have a place. The margins, I have to fight for these margins. The parts is a part of it. Labor is a part of it. We have to make sure that we're accountable. I'm accountable and responsible to these people. So I have to make sure that I'm doing that. So we'll keep fighting the good fight. And all the things that were said, I'm all for capitalism. I'm all for it. I'm all for healthy competition. I want it all. But I think, we also need to, undress the issues at hand and talk about them. And there's not all negatives. There are some positives. But, sometimes the negatives kind of cloud things. But we do need to bring some of the positives to light, which we did at the end. And at the end of the day, it's really about keeping our customers running. They depend on us, and we want to give them value. And within the parts realm, there's those margins allow us to give that value. They allow us to give the warranty. They allow us to be there for them after hours. These are all critical things. And as you see the world changing, like I mentioned, you see the equipment going up. You see parts prices going up. Everything keeps going up. There should be a really deep understanding and a respect that everything's going up for us too. And we are a critical piece to this industry. We all have our parts. We're all important, but we're critical. We are critical in the trenches. We're where the rubber meets the road. When the big dealers and the reps and everyone in the world selling all this equipment, okay? We're the ones installing it. We're the ones servicing it. We're the ones maintaining it. And we need to have that respect conversation too. So, listen, I love all of our partners. I love this industry. That's why I do this. If I didn't care, I'd just be upstairs in my office, probably giving Lisa another T-shirt idea. So, guys, I'm fired up. Every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern. Make sure you're following. Where are we live, Lisa? YouTube.
Everywhere.
Everywhere. So you can go to YouTube, Maliki TV. You can hit the subscribe, hit the bell, never miss a notification. We'll be live on LinkedIn, Facebook, everywhere. If you haven't already, go join the Food Equipment Digital Disruptors on Facebook, and we'll keep building that community over there. A lot of great things continue to happen. Inventory check, topics, hot topics, a lot of networking going on. Get on over, join it. It's free. All right, Lisa, we're gonna be fired up next week. Are we talking about what we got going on next week?
Not off the top of my head.
Okay, forget that. That's done. Okay, stay fired up, ladies and gentlemen. I love you all. Have a beautiful rest of the week. Stay fired up.
See you next week.
Peace.